Hi, everyone. Welcome. Today we have Kristine with us, who is someone that I first met when I started blogging back in 2017. We were both early money nerd bloggers. Kristine used to blog over at Frugosaurus, and she and I really connected around the sustainability and personal finance overlap. And since 2017, she went through a PhD program and finished that up while deciding to start doing some of her passion project stuff, recording it on YouTube around sewing and making really awesome walking skirts and tablet weaving and some really cool historical sewing projects, and has turned that into a monetized YouTube channel. And she has about close to 6,000 subscribers, I think, at this point, and has surpassed the amount of watch hours that you need in a year to be monetized. But she is not someone who, has a million subscribers and is so far away from all of us that hopefully you don't find her intimidating. And so we're here just to talk about her story and about how it works to monetize YouTube. I see that there are a couple of questions in the chat about, creating content every week and just, intro to YouTube channels, and then her personal story of how it looks on her end. And I will drop her YouTube link in the channel here because even if you don't create stuff, her videos are beautiful and fascinating to watch. So, Kristine, over to you.
Thank you. That was really nice. You pretty much said everything I was going to try to mention if I was kind of introducing myself. So I don't really, yeah, I have a lot of fun. I started creating videos while I was still doing my PhD as a distraction. When you're writing in that last year and you're only writing the dissertation, my brain needed to do something else. So I decided to try making tiny videos because a lot of the people that I admired were doing that, like Bernadette Banner. And I was like, oh, I want to see if I could do that, and realized that I really like editing, which was a really nice sort of soft inlet to when my contract ended, because I defended my thesis and didn't have any other jobs lined up. I knew that I already liked doing this. I wanted to see if, since Angela mentioned that we've been finance nerds, we had already saved a bit of money to see if that saving was enough of a runway. We have enough savings for a couple of years to get the monetization to a point where it wouldn't be draining the savings, but at least keeping it either neutral or even putting in the long term. And disclaimer, I do not publish every week. There are very few people in the sewing sort of crafting area who does, because the projects take so long. So that is depending on the niche you're in. But I think it's a misconception that people feel like they have to publish every week. It's better to make the content the best you can and sort of don't burn yourself out, especially if you're doing it next to a job, because this can be really exhausting. It's a lot of work, and you need to enjoy the editing as much as the filming, whatever you're doing, because that is at least half your job, is editing the footage that you got. So yeah.
Which is why we haven't done a lot of WTF YouTube stuff, because neither of us are super into the editing. So I think it's really fascinating that was the piece you enjoy, or the piece that got you connected to it initially. What is it about editing that you like?
Oh, it was so it's a very different form of storytelling. We'd start out with the blogging, and that is it's very mostly pictures and a lot of text. And here you have a whole different media where you can make silence as a part of the story. You could talk about something, and then you can show how I'm doing it, and then you could, since I try to make them calm and nice to watch, you could have silences and design them in between. Maybe a bit paragraph breaks. You sort of, it opens up this whole other world of, instead of just pictures and text, you suddenly have a video, and the video can speak for you. And I thought that was really cool. And then you can tell a different kind of story, but it's still, it's all still storytelling, what we're doing with content creation. It's still crafting a story in different medias, I think. And it was just a lot of fun to sort of design different sets and put the camera and try to find engaging ways to, like, you're just sitting and sewing or knitting. It seems rather monotonous maybe, but to find a way to tell that in a different way.
So how did you decide that like you would want to go into the sewing and knitting and specifically like the historical creation piece?
Well, there's always been an interest of mine. Like when I started uni, I joined a group of Viking age reenactors, like that is fairly big in Norway. And it's again with the overlap of sustainability and finance, I find that there's also a big overlap between sustainability and historical interest, like learning how people make clothes, taking care of your clothes, making things yourself. Knowing how things are made means that you can take care of them better and then they last much longer and then you don't need to buy as many things. Like I did this interesting deep dive. I had this question like some of my clothes would get really stinky and I was like, why is that? Why are some clothes getting stinky but not others? And then I went down this research rabbit hole and I found research articles about how polyester absorbs the stink in our armpits much better than linen and cotton. So then I'm like, aha, so if I make more linen and cotton clothes, then the clothes will also be less stinky and last longer. So yeah, and also I think we have this misconception that everything is better in whichever era. Like you see this in all history that we think we were the best and that people in the past were so primitive, but that is so often really not the case. They had so sophisticated ways of making things and they really thought about things and designed things so that they could work but still stay warm but keep like the important parts less dirty so they didn't have to do as much laundry and just really clever ways of layering their clothes so that they only wash what they need to. And yeah, I just think it's really cool.
Yeah, so I also dropped the link in the chat to the stinky clothing. So that's, I think, what I also really love about your channel is that even if you're not somebody who creates this stuff, there are still interesting videos to watch. So
a good way too to work on your niche and what you're developing, as weird or I don't know, as things might get, or if you think it's a really specific kind of niche thing, there's still probably people out there asking those questions. If you find interest in doing it and you put the material out there, there's probably going to be people who are also going to want to learn about it, right? Like you've mixed up the frugality portion, the eco-conscious portion, your interest in crafts, and then other like practical living considerations on like reducing how much you have to launder, particularly like on this the stinky clothes one. It all kind of comes together, so it has a lot of things for a lot of different people. And I think I also have watched a number of them, and I think you just present very nice. Like there's not always a ton of information in it, which makes it easy for them to absorb, but they're still nice to watch. And I know that's something I have to consider if we ever make videos is I tend to want to pack as much information in as possible, maybe because we come from the blogging background, and rethinking that. So that would be interesting maybe if you talked about that a little bit too, like how you think about framing videos versus when you write.
Yeah, there's only so much you can fit in if you're trying to make them like between 10 and 20 minutes. I mean, that depends. Some people make 1 hour content and people are really enjoying it. So it depends on how you're storytelling it. But yeah, I think people really respond to enthusiasm. This is the feedback I get from other creators too. Like we have a couple of Discord servers where we have other creators, especially in that sewing and crafting niche. We just talk about creating on YouTube. And like, if you manage to get the storytelling and if you're going to invest in anything like the microphone, because sound can be so distracting. If it's a really, really staticky sort of audio, it can be really distracting to the viewers. But if you could manage to craft the story and you just show that you're enthusiastic about a topic, people can be watching videos about things they would never consider doing in real life because you're like showing that enthusiasm. I think people really respond to that. And I think that is how sort of you do a niche. But yeah, sometimes I'm just making a thing and then it's like not going to be a lot of new techniques. You're just trying to show it in a nice way. But like I think there's room for like both 1 hour big blog type presentations and smaller. But I do think that it might be easier to start with slightly shorter videos, because when you're trying to like narrow down how to do the storytelling with the beginning, middle, and end, if you're making it really long with a lot of information, maybe it's easier for your brain to edit it if it's maybe several smaller videos. But both can work. But I'm not really good. I haven't done a lot of super long videos, so I'm trying to like keep it in the slightly more manageable. Yeah, I made a few like over 20 minutes, but not a lot, because they are very different.
Yeah. So do you create like an outline or a script for yourself, or how you talk about the like beginning, middle, and end, and I feel like that's where it's very different from some other forms of content creation, that like I think maybe you need to be more intentional on how it gets structured.
It depends. Like if I'm doing a talking head video, which is like the informational videos, like the stinky clothing or the recycling, I will have a script. So then the script comes first, because then I'm just sitting down and I'm just talking to the camera and maybe filming some extra B-roll, like the additional footage, and putting that on top. So then the script definitely comes first, and everything needs to flow. When I'm filming that I'm making something, there is a very natural like beginning, middle, and end, because you have the beginning materials and then you're making it, and then you show them what you make. But even then, I like to, when I'm filming, in the beginning I was listening to podcasts and stuff while I was filming, but I found that my product was less good. It was much better when I would think about something, how to present what I was doing right then, and then I would pick up my phone and I would just jot down some notes for like a skeleton of a script, and then I could edit that when I was done filming down into something that was more concise. At least that works really well for me. So I'll have like a Google Doc on my phone and just make notes as I'm filming.
Yeah. So part of YouTube or any kind of content creation is also getting people to see your stuff. So, you know, we like to, you know, especially when you see like the blogging 101 courses, or the people who are like, oh yeah, I make all this money doing this content creation. You know, they talk about, well, if you have good stuff, people will find it. And as we all know, that's not how it works. You know, YouTube has so many videos. Have you gone down the SEO rabbit hole? Or, so for those of you who may not know what SEO is, it's search engine optimization. So like if somebody puts into Google women's personal finance, WPF shows up. But if we were, you know, the Purple Elephant Society, you know, we may not show up. So it's like finding like the words to use so that people can find what you're putting out there, because the internet is a very big place. And no matter how fabulous your content is, if nobody can find it, nobody's going to see it.
Like I mean, everyone tries to do a little bit of it, or like within the sewing community, historical, there are some videos that you know are going to get more searches. Like if you make a corset, that word is really big. So I feel like maybe I should make a corset video within like the next year, because you know that it's going to get a lot of views, and things that are useful to people, like adjustable clothing and things like that. But I don't optimize too much. Like I will find something that I really want to make, because then I have that enthusiasm to want to finish the project, and then I will search for search words that could be relevant to what I'm doing, so that it's more organic that way. That I don't sort of jam them in where they wouldn't fit, but I look for things that would naturally fit within what I'm doing. Like Victorian is a really big search word. So if I'm doing early 19th century, even if it's something Norwegian, which isn't technically Victorian, because that is just like the UK, which had Queen Victoria and the rest, but I will still put that word in there because it's the right time frame, because that is a really big word like that. But I find that like if I try to lead with the search word first, because oh, it's a big search word, I should make a video about this, like my enthusiasm just goes through the floor, and I'm like, I don't want to finish it. I want to go do something else. I'm gonna read on my phone or something. Like my brain just goes, no, I don't want to. So for me, it's sort of trying to do a balance, and also sometimes you just don't know what is going to hit people's interest. Like you try to make every video engaging, but a lot of the time, the videos that I thought was going to do really poorly have been the ones that have done the best. And some of the videos you're like, oh, I'm really happy with this. They are like, nah. So
Are
I
you
just
using any tools to help specifically when you are researching keywords, even if you're not using them to guide which videos you produce? How are you going about that research so you do know what to tag them with and what's good for searches?
I haven't done any paid services. So on the back end of the YouTube Creator Suite, you have a research tab where you can like search, you can type in keywords and they will give you results back if they are popular or not. And if there's a high demand for them, like if there's a lot of content already in that word, or if there is like a gap, a content gap potentially that you can fit into. But what I also like to do is just to be, since I'm on YouTube, I will just go on YouTube and I will just type in things and let it autofill, because then that will also inform you about what a lot of people are searching for. So sometimes that is what I will do. Like I'll just let YouTube fill out the rest and make long tail keywords in that way. Yeah, I don't pay for anything currently.
Okay. I have not even gone down that rabbit hole within YouTube, because so far anything we've published for WPF has really just been for our audience to like click the link and find versus organic people stumbling upon it. So it's good to know that there's free tools within. I feel like YouTube is one of those platforms that actually helps creators. Like they want people to be there watching your videos. And so I feel like they're maybe better at like having the tools for you to use than like WordPress or something, who doesn't really care as much like how many people read your stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I find that like YouTube makes a lot of content for creators to help them get better, because like unlike Instagram, where their primary platform is like they get money by you paying to promote your stuff, YouTube primarily gets money if people watch your stuff. So they want as many creators making as much good stuff as possible. So it's a very like their business models are so different. So yeah, I also find that they're like trying to, and I haven't reached this point yet. I think when you reach around 10,000 subscribers, at least it used to be, you get access to sort of people at YouTube who can help you interpret your data, and like you can talk to them and ask them questions. That number might have changed, I don't know, but I know that when you get more subscribers, you also get more support from YouTube to help you get even better, and maybe even suggestions for areas to put your niche or like to put your content down, and suggestions for what you could be focusing on. And if that is something that you want to, or if you're not as interested or good at interpreting all the analytics and all the data you get on the back end, they can help you with that when you reach a certain stage, which I'm not at yet. So
It's almost like being a subcontractor a little bit with them versus some of the other platforms. Can I ask, Kristine, my impression is you didn't intend to monetize when you started out. Is that correct?
yeah. I mean,
I've always been. Tell us the path it took from just I'm going to put some videos on YouTube to now where you're making some money off of them, and how that happened.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been like a serial, like trying to make things that'll make money on the side. Like, I mean, Angela mentioned the Frugosaurus, and then I was trying to make soap because I have a chemistry background, and I was making soap, and like I try to do all sorts of things. But yeah, it started with just, yeah, I wanted to see if this was enjoyable before like spending money on any filming gear or any microphones or anything like that. I feel like you need to do the mini experiment of, do you actually enjoy this? Because before you get famous, if you're gonna get famous, you need to do the work. Like it's so common, I feel like in our society, that people dream about becoming the rock star, but they don't actually like to practice music. And then that's going to be difficult. So like if you don't enjoy the path to get there, it's going to be really, really hard. So yeah, I started it as a distraction when I was writing my dissertation, because my brain needed to do something completely different from writing science. And then I found out I enjoyed it. And I was just going to try to see if I could monetize it when I finished my PhD. And then people were saying like, in Norway, we are very, very, very lucky. There is this thing that when my contract ended, I was eligible to get money from the government while searching for a job. And then within that, I let my caseworker know that I have this thing. I'm autistic, so I work much better from home. I struggle a lot with the office setting. I get really drained, and this year of pandemic of working from home has been like, wow, I suddenly have all this energy, and I have this YouTube channel that I'm trying to make into something. And I was like, I wasn't really trying to get them to let me do anything with it. I was just telling them where I was at. And then the caseworker was like, you know, there's this thing where you can apply to keep the money that you get for being unemployed while you start a business for a year. And I was like, there's no way that's going to happen. They're going to tell me to get my head out of the clouds and like get a real job. Like content creation is not there. There's no way I'm going to convince them to give me money to do that. Like, no way. But we just filled out one application after the other. And I was like, they're going to reject me this time, every time. And then there's one more paperwork, one more form. And first they did reject it, but it was a misunderstanding. So I just sent in a clarification and they gave me the money. For 12 months, I've been getting money to make content. And in that time, I got monetized. I got monetized in September of last year. So it's been 8 months. And I'm not making a lot of money, but then I still had the 2 years of savings. So that means that I have suddenly a 3-year runway rather than a 2-year runway. And then your odds are suddenly a lot better. So now it's sort of just like I'm still in this sort of state of disbelief, if that makes sense. I'm just sort of writing this to see how far I can get before I need to get back to the real world.
Norway actually having social programs in place to
Yeah, people we're
people to
talking
do
about
stuff.
it because it's like, who else has that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's awesome that's an opportunity that you're able to explore more deeply because those things are open to you. And can I point out, Kristine did mention she has autism, and sorry, my son's totally making a ton of noise in the background. Like I feel like it's so cool to start to see these ways that a lot of the people I know who are neurodivergent are able to capitalize on this more and more because of opportunities on the internet. For example, things like YouTube, where it's showing your passion and joy in niche interests. And like Kristine said, showing that she really does care about it and is excited about it because that's something she's passionate about, inspires other people to want to consume the content. And I feel like there's a number of successful content creators I know who say they have some form of neurodivergence, and that's kind of that's their superpower here because they really are so excited about what they're doing. And I don't know. We have a lot of neurodivergent people in our audience, and a lot of them are exploring ways to make more money and not have to be in regular office jobs and things like that. I think it's really good to point out that sometimes those things that can maybe make it more difficult in traditional settings can really be boons for people who have an entrepreneurial spirit and want to explore some other areas.
Yeah, I will also say that though, although I am super introverted and I have been so much more productive when I work from home, you do still get like a couple of months, maybe a couple of years, depending on how introverted you are and how much of a social network you are. It will become a point where you're like, poof, I get no like external impressions from other people. So it might be good to search out, like if there are like in our niche, there are like a couple of Discord servers where people can share experiences and help each other, much like Woven and Women Personal Finance, that you help each other, so you get sort of a co-worker feeling. Earlier this year, I was thinking about, I would really like to have a mastermind type group. How do masterminds work? It seems like this thing that you should have because everyone says they're awesome. How do you get one? How would you get one? And then Patreon, which I'm also on, has these A clubs where you can like join if you're a YouTuber or if you make historical content, but they were all for US audiences. So they were like at 2 a.m. my time. So I was like, no, I'm fast asleep at that time. So I was getting frustrated that these things were available, but I couldn't access them because I would be sleeping. So then I just sent out a couple of questions to a couple of people that I know are also trying to do YouTube on a professional level. If they would be interested in sort of trying to make a sort of mastermind group. And they all were like, yes, cool, let's do it. And I was like, okay. So then we did this thing where we have this fortnightly, like every other week we will meet up and we will talk about YouTube things and we will assign a bit of homework, like maybe watch a podcast, do an experiment, try to change something about our workflow. and we will meet up and talk about our experience, and then someone else will assign the next homework so that we don't get that sort of echo chamber of the same person or us just talking about things all the time. So I feel like that has really helped to get a little bit of co-worker feeling, but still like be mostly introverted the rest of the time. But yeah, community is important.
You community building
Yay!
over there, right? Yeah. And I think you have to be willing to do that a little bit if you are wishing that something was there and it's not. Sometimes you have to just try to do it yourself, and congrats, that's awesome.
So Avanti is asking, how do you meet those people? The people in your mastermind, how did you meet them? How did you originally connect with them?
Yeah, it was Discord servers that we luckily had, that I had heard about from other people in the sort of niche on Instagram and stuff. They were talking about this group of people, and I asked like, what is this? How do I get in? And then they let me in, and then you talk with them and you chat. Most like it's the same thing as people advise people on Facebook groups, I think, that you have to give in order to get, like, just give advice freely. You don't expect to get anything back. So you see the people that are constantly contributing, you have conversations with them. You maybe share an interesting podcast or blog post about something relevant to either editing or history or something like that. And then sometimes things you start communicating over personal message. Maybe you ask a very like specific question and the answer, and it's friendly, and yeah, and then I just took a chance and I just asked them if they wanted to do this thing that I have no idea how to do. So why would you even want to join? Because I have no idea how to do this. So yeah, I don't know if all niches have this. I mean, I feel like in some industries there's more of a, oh, we are competitors, male dominated. But in our niche, it's very much like no one can, if someone is on YouTube all the time and they want to consume content, no one can create enough content for them. Because if you're on YouTube, you're just clicking on the next and the next and the next video. Like, no creator alone is going to be able to feed a several-hour binge. So why not collaborate? Why not share experiences and help each other, because everyone benefits from it? And also, a lot of viewers really love crossovers. Like, if you show up on another person's channel and vice versa, like they find that a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun for you as well, because again, you're mostly by yourself, especially in the beginning. Like, the big creators have teams and editors and whole offices, but when you're starting out, you're usually just one person. So it's really beneficial and it makes it easier to work, I feel, as well, if you're having this feeling of togetherness with other people rather than, no, this is my opposition. I don't like that.
Yeah, well, I don't think you need to convince any of us here about the power of community, because everyone here has opted in to Woven or Insiders with WPF. So I think it's clear that this is, very much where we all are at. So you're speaking our language on that piece. I do want to maybe step back a little bit and talk for the folks that are maybe have not started on YouTube or have not looked at the monetization piece. Can you just talk a little bit about like how many subscribers you need, how many watch hours you need, like what the like actual process looks like to get there?
So the base numbers are, you need at least 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours, as I call it, within the last 365 days. So like if you have it over the entirety of the channel, it doesn't matter. It has to be within the last year and counting. It was also a new thing where if you're a really good shorts creator, you could, I think it was like 1 million views on shorts or something like that. I'm not a very good shorts creator, so I don't pay too much attention to that. But and mostly what will happen is that you will reach the subscribers way before you get the watch hours. Often people will have 2,000, 3,000 subscribers before they actually get the watch hours, depending on how popular their videos were getting. When you reach that threshold, YouTube will give you sort of, you may now sign up for this, and then you click the button and you make sure that you're connected to AdSense and all those other like backend stuff. And I think it depends a little bit on country, because I've heard that it could take a couple of weeks to get approved. But I don't know if it's because I'm in Norway or if I was just really lucky, but I had it within a few days. And then you start earning money from your content from there on out. Like, you don't get anything from the historical stuff. It starts, and then the views from there on you can earn some money on. And that can be anything from, 25 cents to $30. Like it fluctuates wildly. And it also fluctuates the first quarter is really, really bad. But the fourth quarter is really good because, the Christmas rush in marketing, this is common all over marketing in general. Like they spend a lot of money in the fourth quarter. So it also does depend on your niche. Like a lot of tech reviews and stuff like that will do really, really well because people are ready to buy. But if you're like personal finance person trying to tell people not to buy from ads, then people are going to engage less with the ads. And that means that you're also going to get less money from the ads because the algorithm will pick up on that. So like there are many different things that can affect how much you get, like the cost per mil, as they say, how much money you get per 1,000 views. Even things like geographics, like they pay more for the US, the UK, Australia, like wealthy countries. So if your content is primarily in a different language, that could be a barrier to that kind of things. No, you don't have to make the ads yourself. YouTube does put that on, and they will often put that on before you're monetized, but then they will take all the revenue. But you can influence it a little bit. Like there are a couple of boxes that you can tick. Like I think I don't know if guns or drugs. There are a couple of genres that you can say like I don't want this kind of content. And you can also turn it off entirely if there are videos where you don't want that. But you don't control what the ads are, but you just control where they go.
So if you have a video that has no ads, you also make no money from it because there are no ads, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you might make money from sponsorships or Patreon, but that is completely separate from the ads. Sorry, good image.
Kitties are always welcome on videos. So you said that like even within like every 1,000 watch hours, it's not always the same amount of income.
There's a drastic
so you're saying
difference.
it depends on how many people are clicking the ads. So like if you're trying to support a content creator, it helps to click an ad every once in a while.
It helps. It also helps to like not click the skip ad in the beginning, like those kind of small
Don't
things.
skip the ad. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, if you want to, but you can also like my partner got tired of the ads and just pay for premium. So and then you get like a slice of the cake instead from the premium subscriptions.
Okay.
But they're a very small part of like ads are the majority. Most people don't have premium. But
So-
it varies.
So if somebody's trying to support YouTube creators that they like, this is, we've been talking about the content creation, but I also want to spend at least a tiny bit on the like community piece and the like easy free ways to support the folks that you like. So like watch their videos, don't click skip the ads, subscribe,
Like it, comment.
like it,
Yeah,
comment.
subscribe, like, and comment. Those things really, really help. Like when if you get a good like rate and a high, what is known as retention rate, like people watch the video all the way through, that does affect the numbers quite a bit. Yeah, I think it's like it's pretty normal for content in general, like engage with it in a positive way. And that will have a good impact for the creators.
Does it help to interact then with other creators in your niche, commenting, liking on their stuff, subscribing their things, kind of like other medias, or does that not impact how well your site does?
I don't think it impacts as much as it did with vlogging, where like you would link back and people would click, because people are more interested in like writing their own comments and watching their own sidebar. So I don't think it is as important as it was when we were vlogging. It can do a little bit, like if other people are seeing your comment, they're like, oh, cool, I like this person, and then click onto that one. But I don't think that is as impactful as it has been for vlogging.
Does anybody have any specific questions for Kristine that we are not covering? It sounds like maybe if you had just a few tips for somebody who's starting out, like what would be the top things you wish somebody had told you your first few months?
I mean, just try and see if you like it, because if you don't like it, you're going to have a bad time. I mean, I've left my first video ever up intentionally because it's so crap. And like even the second video after that is so much better, and it just shows how quickly you learn when you're trying to do the thing rather than just reading about the thing or trying to learn about the thing, but actually doing the thing. I mean, there are a couple of great places you can learn stuff, like the editing podcast and things like that, where you can learn. But I think there's only so much you can learn without forgetting all of it if you're not actually trying to implement it. Like I could listen to how to do good sound editing or video editing all day long, but if I'm not actually sitting with my editing software and trying out a couple of the things, it's just going to go in one ear and out the other. I'm not going to retain any of it. So I try to like watch at least 1 or 2 videos as I'm editing and try to implement just 1 or 2 things rather than, because you're never going to get to the perfect video. It's just not going to happen. You're never going to get it to the stage where you're like, yes, this is everything. So I just, again, the 1% better every time. I try to find one thing that I can improve, be it in the filming or the planning or the editing. And then I focus on that. And then it's never as good as I want it to be, but I want to publish and then do a new one. And I learn much faster that way by actually publishing the thing rather than sitting and holding on to it and trying to edit it. Because the diminishing returns, like trying to make it perfect, is just going to take so long. It's better to like, okay, I'm going to cut it here, publish it, and then I'll try to make it even better next time.
Kristine, can you also give some recommendations for, after somebody makes their first or second video, basic equipment that you suggest? I swear he gets noisier when I unmute. It's amazing. The basic equipment you would suggest, like a microphone or a video camera, entry-level things that you think most people who don't want to put a lot of money in could benefit from if they want to go a little further with it.
I mean, most people today have a phone that is good enough to start out with. So I wouldn't focus on that first thing. Like if you have a smartphone that has like a decent camera, just start there. And if you want to upgrade a little bit, I'd say a tripod to help you get, because shaky footage is really distracting. So I would think a tripod that can fit your phone, and maybe also like I have this, I don't know if you know, but a lot of camera equipment has like this 1/4-inch screw. It's pretty standard. They're one of the industries that has pretty standard gear, which is really nice. So I have this tiny tripod, which was the first one we got, and it will fit my phone because it has this adapter, but I can also just unscrew it and it fits my regular camera. So it's multi-use in that way, which I really like because then I don't have to have duplicates of many different things. And just a tiny, like a lav mic, like a tiny mic that you clip to your person to get better audio without all the echoey reverberation of the room, or if you're outside and it's really windy, that can help with the noise as well. But I think those 2 things really, really help. And then maybe you can think about a camera further down the line, but you can get really far with just your phone. Like you don't really need, you need to figure out if you enjoy and learn the ropes of it first. And that doesn't need to cost a lot.
Are you still using just your phone and then an external mic?
No, I'm not. So I got, let's see if I can find it. But it's the Sony SV1. It was sold as like this vlogger. It's a tiny compact camera. I don't have like a big camera with an exchangeable objective yet. But since I still had my job at the university at the time, I could save up and then wait for, I think it was a Black Friday sale. We were just had like a watch on the price watch. And when there was a really good offer, we were just, okay, I'm going to get it. But that is because I'm a really weird and difficult person, and I have a Linux computer, and then I have an Apple phone, and they were not communicating. Like it took me hours to get the footage off this thing and onto my computer. I was just like, this is so frustrating. I don't want to deal with this. So that's why I got a camera maybe a bit prematurely. But if you have a phone and a computer that communicates really well, I would probably have stayed with my phone a lot longer.
I also see a question on thoughts on editing or hiring editors.
It depends on your focus. I mean, if you have the money to throw at it, an editor can make things go a lot faster, but of course you still need to have the footage and the scripts and the everything to be engaging. Like an editor is not a magician. They need to have, like the base stuff still needs to be good. I don't have an editor, again, because I'm just by myself trying to do stuff, trying to make it self-sustaining on its own. But I mean, if you have the money to throw at it, it can be a good investment, but I think it's nice to try it out a little bit first. Just like in a lot of jobs, it's nice to know what the different roles are. And I'm pretty sure a lot of us have experienced having a boss that doesn't actually know what you do, which can be both frustrating and bad for the productivity. Like having a basic understanding of how things work and what it is reasonable to ask of the editor can be like nice just to have like this basic understanding of like how does it work. But yeah, a lot of the larger creators will get editors after a while because I mean you have to prioritize your time, and if you're the face of the channel, then you can't stop doing that. But you can't stop doing a lot of the other things. But I'm not there yet.
I don't know if you see Roxana's question. How many hours a day, week, month do you spend creating, editing content?
I do it full time at the moment, so I try to keep my weekend sacred. That is, so I upload every 2 weeks, or I try to upload every 2 weeks. So that means usually I will spend 1 week filming and 1 week editing. I'm quite slow at editing, but that is what I try to do. And then that weekend between filming and editing, if I'm not done, I will usually do a crunch and work much later to get it done so that I can be on time. And then when I publish things, I will have a rest that weekend, absolutely. But it's because I enjoy sewing and knitting to begin with. I might be at a point where I need to finish a couple of seams, but I'm done filming it. I don't need more footage of it, so I'll just sit in the evening while we are watching a movie or something and just finish it in that way. But I don't feel like that is as much. It's work, but it's more relaxing work because you don't have to be like in your filming get up and thinking about angles and stuff like that. So it can become pretty all encompassing, but I try to limit like social media and how much like I try to make short videos to put on things like Instagram for marketing, but I don't demand it. Like if I'm running behind, I will prioritize the video and get that done. And if I need to rest, I will have the rest rather than forcing myself to make extra content for other platforms and stuff like that. If that answers the question.
Yeah. And it sounds like your videos take a lot more time because you also have to like create the thing versus if you so the like video on the stinky fabric probably took a lot less time actually, or more because you went down a research rabbit hole.
Yeah, exactly. It took about the same time. Like I always think that, oh, it's going to be a short video. I just need to write a script. But no, you need to get the sources and read the research and do the things. So they take about the same. So instead of filming for a week, I'm researching for a week to write the script. I always hope that this video is going to take just a few days, and it always ends up taking the full week before I'm like, okay, we need to stop here and just film it, or we are going to get behind.
Kristine, I know you're posting some of the videos on Instagram. Is that built into your monetization strategy, or is it just trying to get people to go to YouTube and look more?
Yeah, that's just trying to engage them on a different platform and trying to make them curious about seeing the full video on YouTube. It's trying to do a little bit of marketing, but I'm also not. YouTube is my primary focus, so everything else is sort of like when I have the extra spoons, which doesn't always happen. So I will absolutely prioritize YouTube over everything else.
So the videos on Instagram, for example, are not the full videos; they're just teasers.
Yeah. That's what I try to do. And also usually my videos are too long to be in full on Instagram, and they're made to be in landscape mode, and then Instagram is in portrait mode. So you need to make sure that it actually looks okay in Instagram to begin with. But yeah, they're meant to be just teasers and like little previews and spotlights of what my primary video.
And you don't have to share, but I'm also curious if you're willing to, with your rough income levels versus your views, like what that's doing for you.
Versus my views, I don't have. So last month I had a milestone of about, like I'm gonna just roughly say $150, but 2/3 of that is Patreon. So YouTube is only about 500 of that. And how many views did I have in, sorry, I should have prepared for that. That seems like an easy question. And in March, I had, not April, but in March, I had 20,000 views. So it's not a lot, but it's like mid-range.
So 20,000 views becomes about how many?
Became about, well, I have it in Norwegian, but I'd say about $40. So my CPM, my cost per mil is about, yeah, $8 per 1,000 views. 8 or 9. It's a bit. I don't know what the dollar is at the moment, but if I'm just multiplying by 10, I think, or dividing by 10, I think that's about it. So around 7 or 8 CPM. So about a mid-range.
So it's it's nice, but it's not a huge amount. Just I like to preface, people who are listening, because obviously you're invested in it, you're enjoying it, and you're spending a lot of time working on it, and it is making some money, but it's not an income replacement by any means at this level.
Yeah, not yet. I mean, it's a lot like blogging. Most people are going to stay in that, like, you're going to make a little bit of side income, but it's not going to replace your main income. But I mean, I always compare it more to writing books than to working for an employer, because what you're hoping to do is that you're putting out so much content that people will start clicking on your other videos as they're watching one, and then they all grow together. And the expectation is that instead of a linear curve, it'll be more of a, exponential curve at some point. That is the hope and the goal, and usually what happens, but you need to have the stamina and the money to get to the point where it actually starts going off.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you mentioned Patreon. So is that folks that really enjoy your YouTube content that are supporting your YouTube videos pretty much?
Yeah. So the main perk there is just that they get all the videos 24 hours before anyone else and without any ads. But yeah, it's just people are really nice, but I think also people our age and younger are aware that content creation takes a lot of time. So if they really enjoy a creator and wanting to keep producing content, then they realize that they might need some support to be able to actually do that. But yeah,
I love that about the younger people. They're so much better
Yeah,
than the older people. I am the
they're so
older
much more
people.
aware
I'm
of
bad.
what.
Admittedly, I'm getting better. But yes, they seem to be much more aware of this, and I love that you've noticed that too.
Yeah.
Well, and it's really
Yeah.
interesting that, you talk about this like point where you can monetize YouTube, but it becomes a small, like it's just a small part of like what is a growing income stream, but Patreon is still the like larger piece of that.
Yeah.
So did you start your Patreon then before you started being able to monetize YouTube?
I did actually, but that is because my main mode of procrastination is to set up stuff. Like setting up website or setting up workflows or setting up, like, that is one of the main ways that I waste time, is setting up stuff because I find it fun. But yeah, I have spoken to a lot of the like medium to bigger creators, and a lot of the stability that they enjoy come from either sponsorships by brands or from Patreon, because the ads on YouTube are so volatile. Like, there is no predictability. Like, if suddenly there is a recession and marketing budgets go down, that is out of your control, but suddenly your CPM is going to drop because people can't spend money on the ads as much. And so it fluctuates wildly throughout the year, even if your views are going up. So for them to be able to plan in advance, the Patreons and the sponsorship deals are much more important than the ad revenue.
So let's talk a little bit about Patreon right as we're coming up at the end of, we've been on here almost an hour. So for those of you in Women's Personal Finance, you might know that we have a Ko-Fi account, which is where folks can support WPF. Patreon is another platform. It basically is set up so that people who really like a certain creator's stuff, that you can become a monthly subscriber to help support them continuing to share what they're doing.
Yeah.
Kristine, are you offering anything special to your Patreon supporters, or is it mostly just a general means for them to support you?
It's mostly just a general means for them to support me, because again, you have to be careful with, like, I would much rather under promise and over deliver. If you promise too much, you're going to burn yourself out because you might not realize how much work. And also, a lot of the people who want to support you on Patreon support you because of the content that you make for YouTube. So if you make yourself do too much for Patreon, you're going to have less time and energy to work on the content that they actually subscribe to you from the beginning for. So I try to make a balance. So they get videos 24 hours ahead of everyone else without any ads. And of course, they can also message me a lot easier. We have a little Discord server where people can hang out if they want to. I send them a little thank you message, and like, if they give more money, I will send them a card. But that works because I have so few subscribers. I know people who had to stop sending letters to people because they got too popular and it took up too much. Again, they took up too much time, so they couldn't make the content. that people subscribe to in the first place. So it's a balancing act. Like some people give monthly live stream, monthly updates. Like I will like talk to them about what are the plans for the coming month. I will be a lot more open about plans, even if they don't happen. Like I will talk to them about what I hope to do, what I plan to do, and what I'm enthusiastic about. Whereas on the public side of things, I will be a lot more cautious because I don't want people to be enthusiastic for a video that maybe I don't actually get around to making. But on the Patreon, I'm a lot more open and like I let people know the ups and downs, and more of the back end, like behind the scenes. I try to be a lot more like, I mean, I'm honest in the public too, but I'm a little bit more cautious about not giving people expectations without being able to fulfill them. I want to like have the video done before I let people know that this is coming, because that reduces my anxieties a lot more than like promising and then not being able to, and then it's just a mess.
Right. Does anybody have any other final questions for Kristine? She is also on Woven, so if you have questions there too. I can also start a thread specifically to talk about this YouTube stuff so that if anybody wants to continue this conversation, we can talk about it. But I think it's really interesting. I didn't realize how much, like, I thought once you kind of hit the like monetization, like that would be more your focus, but it sounds like that, like for a lot of people, making sure you have a Patreon or some sort of like recurring membership, monthly donation, etc., is really important to be able to make that income happen sooner than having a million YouTube views.
Yeah, and some people also do like merch or digital patterns or stuff like that. I haven't had the surplus energy to do things like that, but you can also do, again, much like blogging, have like these extra stores on the side if that is your interest, and that can also help. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much. It was wonderful to have you.